How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Highly Taken podcast. I am David, currently trying to set up my computer back in Tallahassee, Florida.
I'm Christian. I'm drunk as fuck. It's my 21st birthday, baby, and I'm in Elkton, Maryland.
Let's get it. Hey, Nick, back at you in Jacksonville. Let's get it, guys. But first, happy birthday, Christian. Hey, it's a big day. It's gonna be fun. So we'll make this quick for you so you can start celebrating. I guess we'll just skip Gone in 60 Seconds this week, but we'll start with Dubs and Chuck so we can get you off of here. So first game, guys, it's championship week, so you got a lot of championship football going on in college. So we'll start it off. First game you got to choose from: Oregon versus Washington.
Ooh. Give me Washington. I don't give a baby. Penix Jr. is about a ball.
Now, Oregon's been playing too good the last several weeks, and Washington has not. So we need Oregon here.
Yeah, I'm with David on that. I like Oregon in this one, and this is going to make it very hard for the committee. Going into the next one, we got SMU versus Tulane.
Give me Tulane, baby.
Yeah, dude. I'm going to go with Tulane as well. I know Tulane, I think, was ranked, at least, if not this year, they were ranked last year. So I'm going to go with Tulane in this one as well.
Yeah, Tulane's ranked 17. SMU's ranked 24. It's going to be a good matchup there, but Tulane's looked really, really good this year. So I'm going to take Tulane also. Next game, we got Oklahoma State versus Texas.
Give me Texas. Easy money.
I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm going to pick Oklahoma State. This is always my issue with college games. I like the upset. Even though Oklahoma State got blown out by the UCF, 2019 national champions, I'm going to go with Oklahoma State here.
Ooh, that's rough, man. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take Texas out of it. This is their last chance to win a Big 12 championship. But I'm going to take Texas. They're going to get it done at their last chance at it. Going into the next game, we got Georgia versus Bama for that SEC championship.
Yeah, I'm going to take Georgia. I can't go against Georgia right now, bro. They're undefeated in the past 3 seasons. I mean, can you really go against them? I'm going to have to go Georgia.
I agree. I think Alabama should have lost to Auburn last week, and I think they're going to lose to Georgia this week.
Yeah, Georgia just hasn't looked like themselves lately. They should have lost against Auburn, but I'm going to go ahead and take Georgia there as well. It's going to be a good game, though, I will say. It's going to be a good game. Next game, we got Louisville versus FSU.
I'll take Louisville. I think they had a bad beat last week against Kentucky, bro. Everybody's expecting FSU to win, but this game really means nothing to FSU and their playoff chances. I still think they fall out whether they win or lose, so I think Louisville has something bigger to play for.
Yeah, I think that's a dumb take that they fall out if they go undefeated in Power 5. However, I will say I don't think they're going to win, but sure, I'm going to pick them to win anyway. So I'm going to go with the Noles here.
You're going with the Noles. See, I can't do that, man. I have a feeling Louisville's going to upset them because what do they have to play? One, they're playing for the ACC championship. 2, they can knock someone out of the playoffs. I like Louisville in this one in the ACC championship. Going into the NFL games, we got the Colts versus the Titans.
This is a tough one here, but even though it's at the Titans, I'm still going to take the Colts. The Colts are pushing for a strong playoff contention here. Gardner Minshew is playing very well. Pittman Jr. looks like a baller right now. I'll take the Colts.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. Titans just aren't good in general. The Colts are doing really well, and hopefully they get themselves into a playoff.
Yeah, Colts have been a sneaky team, right? Titans now are just looking to kind of rebuild, so I don't know. Even if it's in Tennessee, I think the Colts are just the better team in this one, so I'll take the Colts. Next game, we got the Falcons versus the Jets.
See, here's the thing is the Jets are kind of playing to get Rodgers back. That's what they're kind of playing for right now. The Falcons, however, are starting to find their footing. Is it at the Jets or at the Falcons?
It's at the Injury Stadium.
You know what? I'm gonna take the Jets because B. John Robinson's gonna tear his Achilles tomorrow or Sunday.
You heard it here first, folks.
Oh boy, I don't know about all of that. I do feel like the Falcons aren't a good team, even though they are leading the division at 5-7. I'm going to pick the Jets here to win.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. The defense is just better. I think the Jets are going to get this done at MetLife, try to build their season so that way they can go in the playoffs. That last position's up for grabs as Rodgers comes back. So next game, we got the Browns versus the Texans. Both coming off of big losses.
Buddy, I'm pretty sure the Broncos play the Texans.
Oh, it is the Broncos. Sorry, my handwriting sucks. Broncos versus the Texans.
Yeah, you're pretty ridiculous. Is it at the Texans?
I can't put that on.
It's at the Texans?
Yeah.
CJ Stroud bounces back, bro. Give me the Texans.
It's going to be interesting. Yes, CJ Stroud is probably facing his toughest defense yet in the NFL. It's going to be a real testament to see how well he is this season. And I think he gets it done. I do agree. I'm going to say that the Texans beat the Broncos here.
They both are pushing to have a playoff spot right now. It's a good game. It was tough for me to choose between them, but Wilson's starting to play a little better. Broncos have been on fire, so I'm going to take the Texans to beat Broncos at home.
Who to me there?
I think CJ Stroud has a bounce back game. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think CJ Stroud's going to have a good game. He's going to do it himself like he has this entire season. Next game, Panthers versus the Bucks.
Did Nick just say Stroud's going to have a bounce-back game after throwing for 320 last week plus an extra 60 on the ground with a rushing?
But you know what matters the most is wins and losses, buddy.
You said Panthers at Facts. You said Panthers at Bucks? Yeah, Baker Mayfield and the boys will bounce back. They'll get the job done there. Panthers are going to only have one win on the season.
Crazy. The Buccaneers right now, they have the 7th draft pick in the draft right now. However, if they win the division, it's crazy. I overthink these too much. And because of that, I'm going to pick the Panthers. I'm going to roll with the Panthers. I think Bryce Young has a game. I'll say 3 touchdowns by Bryce Young.
You're crazy.
Book it. That's tough, man. I think Baker Mayfield is a gamer. He doesn't like losing. He's going to try to win this game, but he's also not 100% right now. So Trask might be playing in that game some. Even with that, even with Trask, they're going to win this game. I think the Bucks win Tampa. Tiebreaker game, we got the Browns versus the Rams.
I'll take the Browns 20-17.
This is tough because the Rams offense has been rolling against a good Browns defense. I think you saw some kinks in that Browns armor, and that kink's going to be the offense not staying on the field long enough. That's going to tire the defense out. I'm going to go here with the who are the Browns playing again? You said the Rams?
Nice. We just lost David thing. This is the last of my picks. I got to go.
Well, I'm going to take the Browns. That's why I picked this game as a tiebreaker game. I think the Rams are going to build off the momentum that they had last week against Arizona. So I'm going to take the Rams winning 24 to 13.
Yeah, that's a good number there. 13's a good number. I like that take.
And then David's blank screen. What was he saying? Rams what?
Rams 28-17.
28-17.
All right, boys.
It's booked. Go enjoy it. Hey, you first round's on me. Already sent it over to you. Go enjoy.
I sent him some stuff too.
Yeah, actually, Nick, David sent it over before you sent it over. So technically, first round's on David, second round's on Nick.
Yeah.
Well, that's jacked up. I was gonna send it at midnight, but I was asleep. Man,
well, you couldn't have been asleep.
You go get yourself something other than Twisted Teas.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
boys.
man.
Enjoy it.
Hey, have a good rest of the pod. I'll see you guys later, buddy.
See ya.
Doses. So now we can talk
about how sully Christian is and how we wanted him off this pot. No.
So, it's championship week, man. We already pretty much gave our picks. But really the game I'm looking forward to is the game tonight. This is the biggest game of all, and it's Oregon versus season. Washington. It's going to be probably the best game of the weekend. We've saw a little taste of it earlier on, but man, you have two guys going up against the Heisman trying to win. This could be a deciding factor of who may get it.
Yeah, gotta give those games. No, I completely agree. And right now, I mean, I think Bo Nix is my Heisman winner right now. I think Penix is my third place. I think Jaden Daniels has been doing a lot of good things at LSU right now.
He's doing everything at LSU.
Yeah, he's literally the whole offense. But Oregon, I just feel like I said this about a month ago. I think Oregon right now is the scariest team. Just if you look about their margin of victory in this season, in all their wins, they have won by at least, I think, an average of 20, not at least, but they've won an average of like 23.5 points per game. They've won by almost 24 points a game in each game they've won this year. That's insane.
That's the highest difference of anybody.
And they're averaging like 30-some points per game on that offense. I just don't think Washington's defense is good enough to stop that. On the flip side, Oregon's defense is kind of spotty. They're either going to give you a good game, I feel, or they're going to give you a game where you have to score 42 against 38.
Yeah.
I think how Washington has looked in the past several weeks, I just think Oregon is just the better team coming into the game. But, I mean, there's a lot on the line, so who knows? They could play up to that potential.
I mean, listen, so last week, we've seen Washington. They've been shaky, like you said, the last couple of weeks. Last week, it's Washington State. It's a big rival. That game has always been big for those two. You know, they ended up winning, which made things harder for this week. I mean, right where we thought it would be. Whoever wins this is definitely getting the bid. But I feel like at this point, you have to have both of them in. The way that they've both been playing and dominating, just for me to sit here and think that they don't deserve a shot at it, it's hard. I'm with you. I think Oregon's the better complete offense, their offense, but Washington has a scary good defense too. You know, they can do some things over there on defense, and you know, I think they're the ones that held Oregon to the fewest amount of points this year. You know, do they do it again? I don't know if you can stop that offense twice. I don't know. We'll see, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of playoff implications are on the line right now. Obviously, if Oregon loses, they're done. They have no shot. Washington's in. If Washington does lose, there's a lot of the stuff for the committee to have to look at. I mean, obviously, if Florida State loses, that's a little bit easier. If Bama wins, what happens there? If Florida State loses, there's a lot of scenarios where, like, where is Washington in all this? And it's hard to, when you're only lost to a team that you beat, it's really tough because there's two sides of that coin. It's, yeah, we've already beat them, though, and we just lost this one. We only have one loss to a team that we've already beat. On the flip side is, oh, yeah, well, you beat them, but then they came back and beat you. So I think it really is going to come down to how big is the margin of victory there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you really don't want to see these two tough it out 3 times in a year, right? I mean, you don't want to have a best out of 3. Would it be interesting? Sure, but nobody's going to see the same teams play 3 times. So I think that's what it's really going to factor into. I think whoever wins gets in. I mean, I would like to see them both get in based off of the way they've both been performing. It's just tough for me to be like, yeah, let's watch this for the 3rd time. You know, it's one thing if you play, like, let's say in the Pac-12 championship and then you play again in the playoffs. That's one thing. Completely get that. But to play regular season championship and then go back at it again, if possible, I don't know. It's tough for me to really sit there, and that's something that luckily I'm not on the committee for that reason, because that's a tough decision to make. I mean, granted, if they deserve it and they all lose, FSU loses, you know, and Bama beats Georgia, they both should go in if Oregon wins. You know, I don't see how
But then you have a Michigan team who's undefeated too. So that's going to be, if they win, you're having a Michigan team who's undefeated.
Yeah. I mean, Iowa, that's kind of, they're a decent team.
Defensive wise, they could.
They're
Michigan,
always a good defense. Always. They never have offense.
Here's the thing that's going to be interesting to me. The scenario where Bama beats Georgia, Michigan wins, FSU wins, and then Oregon beats Washington is the situation where I would not want to be the committee if that were to happen.
No, FSU is going to automatically get a bid at that point. You know, they don't have
have
any.
to. Although, again, like I said last time, they are not a best 4 team in the nation, but you're also not going to leave them out of it if they're an undefeated Power 5 team who won their conference.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting. You know, the next thing to lead us into the Georgia Bama game. I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't think any of these two teams are the same teams that we saw in the past. Both of them are they're beatable. Both of them. Bama, we've seen it this year. Georgia's played some close games this year. Their offense hasn't been doing well. Their defense is okay, but it's not the Georgia of the past 3 years. So I think, in my opinion, I think Oregon or Washington are the two best teams in the league right now.
Yeah, I think Oregon. I think Michigan's the second best. But I'm Washington. I mean, they're playing good football too. Georgia and Bama. It's going to be an interesting game because last week they both underperformed. They both really. It's almost like they were looking forward to the next week before playing their first games. I mean, Georgia had some issues against Georgia Tech. Auburn should have won the game last week. So I mean, it really makes you wonder what two teams you're getting. I just think, in the grander scheme of things, I think Georgia's just the overall better team than Bama is. Bama's looked kind of shoddy the entire season. I mean, heck, they beat, what was it, USF by 8 points this year. So, I mean, I think they are a victor of circumstance, and they've been getting kind of lucky throughout the year. And I just don't think that same luck runs into that Georgia game. Because truthfully, the only good game Bama has won has been LSU. LSU, I would argue, are the best.
Ole Miss is a good one.
I guess Ole Miss is ranked like 11 or 12 right now.
Yeah, I mean they have 2 wins from teams that are in the top 20, top 15.
But
I
have lost to Texas.
And Texas is the number 7, and that's where you got to draw the line of, if they win. I don't know if you let them in if Texas wins.
Will you jump?
You got to let Texas in based off the fact they beat them already, and that's not fair to Texas if that's the case. I agree with you. It's kind of like the same resume as FSU, to be honest. There's no big teams that FSU is beat that stands out. So like they're in the same predicament over there. Is they don't have any like outstanding teams that they beat, and that Auburn game. They should have lost that game. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a great pass that he threw. Not taking any credit away from the way he threw that pass, but they should have lost that game.
Yeah,
they should have
100%.
lost. So I mean, it'll be interesting. I think Georgia will win that game. I don't think Bama's ready for that defense. But touching based on the Michigan situation over there with Iowa, they win this game, right? Let's say they end up winning the title without Harbaugh. Do you let Harbaugh go?
I think there's been a lot of speculation that Harbaugh may go up to the NFL. I mean,
I heard Chicago's been reaching out to him.
I would not be surprised if he were to do that. Would not be surprised, especially if they're throwing that money to him. Also, all those allegations are happening right now. I mean, could be someone to distance him away from those.
Pete Carroll did the same thing.
Yeah, and the grammar scheme of things, I mean, if they win without him, does Harbaugh go? No, I don't think they would let him go. I think the only reason Harbaugh would be off the team next year is if they both decide, it'd probably be better for me to go to the next level and coach again, which truthfully he can't. I mean, we know he's a great coach. I mean, he went to a Super Bowl
with the Niners.
So, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to go and see with that. I think Michigan, I think they'll win it easy. I really do think it's going to be a blowout win I think they're already like a 20.5 point favorite in the Big Ten championship game against the number 4 team in the nation, which is absolutely insane to have that big of a margin of, victory.
Well, wasn't that kind of like what it was with Purdue last year, though?
Yeah, but that's also Purdue. That makes sense.
Yeah, right. I don't know that whole West I don't like that they're making it to where there's no, divisions in the Big Ten.
You'd have a good West. You'd have a good West.
So here's what me and my brother were talking about, Tyler. They can do 4 divisions, and they can have a playoff at the end, take that remaining schedule, the last couple games, and have a playoff between the 4 teams for the Big Ten championship. You have enough to where you can do that, and they all play each other at the end. I like that. I think it brings in another element into the game.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. I mean, they do the same thing with basketball. They have their own conference tournaments and before they go to the actual tournament. So it'd be interesting to really do something like that. Again, the only issue I have is now that there's like 18 teams in the Big Ten, it's going to be super hard to equally play everybody in your conference to get that. Now, if you have 4 divisions, like you said, that actually is not that bad of an idea because you shortened down the competition. So now you're only having to play, I'm not sure how they're going to break it down between 18 divided by 4, but now you're going to have, You're going to play at least 4 or 5 of those guys in your division, which should be
Yeah.
fine. I think that's
Yeah.
not a bad idea because you're guaranteeing you're playing against your own conference, and you can play your out of conference Big Ten games, and you can maybe throw in some out of conference games as well.
Yeah.
I mean, at this rate, though, the only issue I have is we're going to have longer college seasons. I don't think you're going to be able to fit everything within this window to grant 3 playoff games. Now, I mean, you have 3 rounds now in the playoffs. You have quarterfinals, semifinals, finals now. So the whole scheduling part, again, glad that's not my job because that is a lot of work and a lot of confusion, I feel. But I don't think that's a bad idea.
No, I mean, you gotta think about it. Obviously, it's gonna make it to where that West isn't gonna be like the same as it was. It's a dog trash team. And then you're gonna have it to where Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, now 2 of them might be in the same conference, but 1 isn't, and you're gonna have it to where one of those have a chance to go into the Big Ten championship, every year. And in my opinion, we saw the Big Ten championship already. We saw it between Ohio State and Michigan. That was a great game. I mean, that is what we were looking for, and that's how it should be. But just switching into divisions, I think it's going to make it. You have the West where they don't have to travel constantly. They have their teams that are in their division that they're going to play every year, so they know they don't have to travel as far. And then you just have a couple, like you said, you have a couple of those games that are out of your division, you play. I think it's a good idea. I think you're right. I think you expand it. Let's say expand it to 14 games. Like they play 12 right now, expand it to 14 games. I mean, who knows what they're going to do? It's going to be interesting. But you got to get NCAA to sign off on it. And we all know that they are old school.
I think they'd be all in on it. I think that's 2 extra games to make money, and I think they'd be fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not go for it? I mean, I think it's just gonna, like you said, I think it's gonna bring in more revenue. It'll be interesting, but in my opinion, I think if Michigan wins without Harbaugh this year, I think they're gonna be okay with cutting ties and letting him go. Yeah, I mean, because Michigan, they're gonna have recruiting coming there regardless. Just based off what they're looking like.
Who'd be the coach there, though? I mean, who are you going to make the guy who has been interim him right now? I mean,
Jimbo.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
He's going to a big college. He brings recruits in. Maybe he can continue to bring in. Well, he brought in some recruits. Maybe he can continue it. But I also heard that FSU might be going to the Big Ten too. I don't know if you heard that.
I've heard FSU going to the Big Ten. I've heard SEC. I don't know. I think they're going to stay in their conference until they just can't anymore.
Yeah, why not? Stay in that conference and win some games against an easy conference. I mean, I don't know if you're ready to take the step into a Big Ten or an SEC. That's 2 different. That's a different style.
I'm not sure if they'd be ready to go up against the Michigan and Ohio State 2 times a year. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it all. But man, Louisville and FSU. I think a lot of people are underestimating Louisville because they lost to Kentucky last week. But go ahead and do that. And for your sake, you better hope FSU doesn't overlook it because that's not going to be an easy matchup. They have great coaching there. They turned that program around.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna be a really good game. I feel I just got to roll FSU for loyalty reasons, but if they were to lose, it wouldn't be surprising. Obviously, you're missing your number 1 player. He's gone. I mean, he's out for the season, so you're missing that guy. And yeah, you can ride Rodemaker as much as you want, but he's not Travis. Good. He won't. I mean, he looked all right against a 5-7 UF team, but like, what's he going to look like against a team that's supposedly supposed to be the 2nd best team in the ACC? And we're going to have to see that. I think in order for FSU to win, they're going to have to establish that run game early because they will not be able to do anything if they rely on Rodemaker's arm the entire game. They're going to have to be able to do RPOs. They're going to have to be able to do play actions because they can't run the ball. I think that's game over for them. I don't think they're going to be able to throw against this Louisville team.
Listen, it's one of those situations for you. If FSU does lose, that may open up a spot for Ohio State. It's not out of the question for them. I mean, they were good. They're not the same Ohio State of last year, the year before, but you have to at least look at it and possibly adding them to it, depending on this crazy thing that might happen this week, which I don't think it's been like this ever before, man. It's never normally been like that. It's like, what if this happens? What if this happens? This year is the first year where there's tons of teams that have an opportunity to go in the top 7 teams.
Yeah, it really hasn't been this way since the BCS. Since you had, I want to say like 2007, where like Texas had to lose and West Virginia had to lose and so-and-so had to lose for Ohio State to somehow make it into the BCS that year. It hasn't been that way since the BCS. I'm glad. I like how there's more parity in college football. I'm glad it's not like, oh, well, it's going to be Bama or Clemson this year. That stinks. But I mean, there's a lot of parity. I mean, like you said, Ohio State has a shot. It's a long shot. FSU has to win. Georgia has to win. Washington has to win. And then Texas has to lose. So
listen, they're sitting on the 50-yard line right now. 2 seconds left on the clock, throwing the ball up in the air and hoping they come down with it, man.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think they would have a good opportunity to go in there in the playoffs and have a chance to win it. I went
head-to-head with Michigan, who's right now the undefeated number 2 team in the nation. I mean, honestly, I think the Buckeyes probably are a top 4 team in the nation, but I mean, you lost one. That's the part of the game. You lose that game, you don't get a chance again with FSU.
Yeah.
I don't think they're a top 8 team in the nation right now, but because of their scheduling, because they're undefeated, because they started off the season at number 3, I don't see how you push them out if they win. So I mean, it's just a tough situation.
Yeah, it sucks. I'm glad I'm not a fan of a team that's always good. I'll be enjoying myself, whatever bowl game we get. I'll be enjoying that. Outside looking in. But yeah, I mean, being in that situation, you're like, you expect something like this, and it sucks as a fan. We've seen it, Philly. But hey, I'll go. Going into NFL, my nut or bust.
Yeah, let's go bust or bust.
All right. I'll start off. QB. I think Tua is a good starter this week. He's going up against Washington, the worst defense in the league against quarterbacks. Plus, he put up 7 points last week against the Jets. He needs a bounce back game to get himself ready as he gets closer and closer to the postseason. So this is one of those games he's going to build that confidence. I think he's a must start for anyone. My next running back that I'm thinking you should start this week, Zach Moss. Zach Moss is getting the bulk of the carries in Indy this week because Jonathan Taylor is hurt. So I think we've seen what he can do. I think they're going to be relying heavily on him. I think he's going to get the job done against Tennessee. I think Tennessee's at this point where they want a draft pick for next year. And I just think the Colts, they want to do something. They want to make those playoffs. So, Zach Moss is probably going to grind. Next running back, I got to go Mixon again. I know I chose him last week. He didn't do anything. But they have to rely heavily on him in order to get that offense going with having a backup quarterback. You don't have Joe Burrow. What do? You get the running game going, get some screens going, use him. And I think they will this week. I think they'll go back to the game plan of using him. Wide receiver, where do I begin? I have a plethora of ones that you can choose from. Tyreek Hill. I mean, I feel like that's an obvious one. You can go Waddle. Those two, perfect. I mean, Washington's just a terrible defense. You can go Keenan Allen. That's the only offense and only weapon that Herbert has right now, and they're going to continue to use it. Patriots are in full tank mode now, too. I think Chargers are going to win that game. I think Keenan Allen is going to have a good game, like always. And then my other one, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, yes, he's going up against the Niners. The Niners have a great defense. But A.J. Brown hasn't had a 100-yard game in like 3 weeks now. He's due for it. He's due for a big game. This is a big game. This could possibly decide who gets the number 1 seed. And I think A.J. Brown is the best bet. I think they're going to use him to their advantage. And I think he's going to probably go over 100 yards. So, tight end, you touched on it last week. Freiermuth, man. That is Pickett's favorite target. It gets him going and boosts his confidence. They are going up against the Cardinals, which they looked awful last week. And Higbee had a pretty good game against them as well. I think he is going to have another big game. He's going to actually get a touchdown this week. He didn't have one last week. He's going to get one this week. Start him. And to end it with defense, Jets defense against the Falcons. Their defense is just so good. Falcons, I don't know how they're in first place in their division. Jets need to win this game. They're going to rely on their defense to do this. Would not be surprised if they have a defensive touchdown and make it 2 weeks in a row with a defensive touchdown. Who I say you should bench and the bust, Kyron Williams. I know he had an amazing week last week. I mean, he was their main offense last week, but this week they're going up against the Browns. It's a little different. I don't know if they're going to be able to get the run going. They're going to have to rely heavily on passing. So I think Williams, you should probably sit him. Don't know how you feel about this, but I have a gut feeling you should sit Brock Purdy. The reason I say you should sit Brock Purdy is because everything that's been going on this week and all of the trash talking that's been going on against the Eagles, and they just have a chip on their shoulder going into this game. I don't know why you add fuel to the fire on a defense that is a decent defense. They're going to get after him all day. They're going to make his life living hell. And I don't think you should start Brock Purdy. His stats that he has, fantastic, but I don't think he's going to have it this week. That's it.
Yeah. So those are some really good ones. Like I said, I defense wise, I was going to agree. Jets defense. I mean, you have whoever is starting there, whether it's Heineke, whether it's Ritter starting for the Falcons. I don't think that's enough for a good defense like the Jets defense. Now for talking about other positions wise, I'm going with a shocker quarterback start here. Will Levis. I think you can start Will Levis against this Colts defense. They've been allowing a lot of points. I mean, I think they're averaging like 24, 25 points per game allowed. They're also averaging about 230 passing yards per game. So I think you can, that's a good chunk of points right there. I think you can do. Running back wise, man, I think it's going to be tough. There's a lot of good running backs I feel like you can put in there. Etienne is starting again this week. I could see him doing something big. I would look at Pacheco. I think Pacheco has had a lot of good usage in the past couple of weeks. They're playing against the Packers team who hasn't looked that good this year, and I think he could get some good yardage on the ground. If we want to go wide receiver, Mike Evans. Mike Evans has looked great this past several weeks, and he's playing against a really bad Panthers team. Now, although I think the Panthers may win this game, I think Mike Evans has a good game himself. If you're looking for a tight end wise, obviously you can say Kelsey. I would look for Tyler Higbee from the Rams. Now the Browns have a good defense, but I think that the Rams have so many offensive weapons that they're going to be worried about the Puka Nakuas. I don't know if Cup's playing, but if he's playing and worry about Cup, and then obviously you have to worry about the tight ends. I don't know if they have anybody to match against those tight ends there. And so wide receiver, I guess I say Mike Evans. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that, but since you're saying Levis, you might as well put in D-Hop as your wide receiver if that's the case. You think he's going to do that? You might as well have D-Hop in there too. That's the guy he's going to throw the ball to. I'm pretty sure Treylon Burks is done, so they're going to have to rely heavily on D-Hop. So if he's going to get his yards, he's going to get him probably over 100 just with D-Hop himself. And Okonkwo is probably not a bad one for the tight end if you think they're getting some points.
Really hit or miss tight end, but
yeah. Hey, he's a terp, man. I like Okonkwo. But yeah, we might as well talk about it real quick, and then we'll go on to another one. Last night's game, Seattle versus Dallas. That was a great game. Pete Carroll didn't like the calls. I think I agree with him. But again, you can't really bring it on that. They played a great game. Unfortunately, they just couldn't stop the offense that they have rolling right now in Dallas. They have all the confidence in the world right now. It's scary as an Eagles fan to see that. We don't want that. But as I said before, this offense looks exactly like the offense when Tony Romo was ahead of it and looked amazing in the regular season. And he just so happened to fumble the ball while he was kicking a PAT. So never look into the regular season too hard. Dak's playing great. Seattle, they played amazing. They looked at. I hope the only thing I'm hoping for is the Eagles look at that game and look and see what they did to that defense, because they need to replicate it, because they absolutely demolished them with DK Metcalf. 3 touchdowns himself is crazy.
Yeah, the Seahawks has something going. This has been an offense that has not looked good all season, and you're going to come out and you're going to put up 30-some, 20 or high. I think it was 30-some points on should have been one of the better defenses in the NFL right now. Obviously, it was an offensive shootout. Geno Smith had the best game of the season. DK Metcalf had his best game of the season. And like you said, you're going to have to look at the tape and like, what did they do differently that other people haven't been? Now, like you said, there were a lot of very bad calls. There was one drive in particular where Dallas had 4 penalties that turned into first downs for them. That one was a bad pass interference call. However, I always will say, if you let a call decide the game, you didn't play well enough to win anyway. Now, Dak, like you said, has been playing well this season. I mean, yes, they have their first win against an above 500 team who's now not above 500 anymore because they beat them. So I
they
mean,
were at
that's
500. They weren't above. They were
they're
literally
at 6-5 when they played them. They were at 6-5 when they played them, so they were above 500. It's just after they lose, obviously they're at 500.
Doesn't count anymore.
A lot of things to think about there. I mean, Dallas hasn't really had a test. Their biggest test was the Seahawks so far. So a little grain of salt
the Niners there. And Eagles, but they didn't start getting their offense going.
And Cardinals.
Yeah, well, they didn't get their offense going until, in my opinion, the Eagles game is when that offense started clicking, which is scary. I'm hoping that doesn't happen anymore. I think the Eagles need a big signing. I think Shaq is a good one to get. I hope they get him. I just don't know. You know, it was a good game. You got to give credit where credit's due. Is that offense looked good last night? It did. Defense didn't, and I like that they didn't look good last night because that's a good thing. That's a good sign. I don't know if it's because they were missing Van Der Esch or what, but they didn't have Van Der Esch last week either, and they did okay. But again, they didn't play a very good team. But yeah, Philly going into Dallas next week. I always chalk it up 1-1. We win at home, they win at home. I feel like it always happens almost every single year unless something changes, but that's what I already have that on my calendar as a loss. So I mean, we'll see.
So what does that get us into? What else do we want to talk about?
There's a
off the bed.
Oh, someone's in trouble.
All right.
I mean, I feel like there's a elephant in the room that we haven't discussed yet. And I mean, it's going to be the Eagles versus the Niners. I mean, it's the game of the week, right? Probably the game of the season, regular season, in my opinion. It's huge. It's huge for the NFC. It's a big matchup. It's turning out to, if this is how it's going to be, it's turning out to be another like rivalry week where we have a team that we're going up against in the NFC, you know? The way it's shaping out to be, it kind of looks like it's just like how it was with like the Pats and Steelers every year, you know, Pats and Colts, things like that. I think it's going to be an interesting game. But it's all going to be won on the trenches, and which is crazy because they both have great lines on both sides. So it's going to be nuts to see what's going to happen. I do think Niners have a slight edge for one reason and one reason only. Our play calling has been absolute dog water. It's been so bad. And I don't know. I hope they change it up this week, but it's just been so bad. Well, that's why I do think the Niners have a slight edge. The only thing that I think if they were in San Fran, they would be favored by more than what they are right now. But because it's in Philly, they're favored by 2. So I don't know. Yeah,
I think when you look at both teams, they're the both most complete teams in the NFL. I think the Eagles have a slight edge at quarterback. I think they may have a slight edge on line or not very comparable lines. You can argue that they're both tied at the same line. Now, biggest thing right now is Goddard's out. That's a huge hit, a huge weapon being lost. And then you're going to have to see how Brock Purdy does against the Eagles. Now, obviously, the last time they played, the trenches is where it was won. Eagles won the trenches, which in turn hurt Brock Purdy and also hurt their backup quarterback now. Now, obviously, they won't get into a situation, I don't think so, where they hurt all the quarterbacks on the roster right now.
No.
But I think it's going to be interesting. You're going to see a complete game. I do think the Niners have an edge. I think not only do they have the edge personnel-wise right now, but they had that chip on their shoulder. They got blown out in the NFC Championship game. They had a chance to go to the playoffs. They lost. You know, you can say, "Oh, that's our third string quarterback." He's your starter now. So how much was? We were playing with a third string. How much is that right now? Right. But I mean, I think it's gonna be a really good game. Like you said, huge implications. Now, luckily, the Eagles have a 2-game lead on that first place bye. However, you lose this week, you go and play Dallas next week.
Can't lose
I mean, you're going to have to want to split one of these two games. Now, obviously, Philadelphia is 3-0 in this gauntlet right now. And hopefully they can keep that up. But I mean, it's gonna be a good game. Eagles don't win if they have the game they've had the past 2 weeks. You cannot be down 10 at halftime and expect to win these games. It's going to have to be complete games by both sides of the ball in order for them to win this game.
Yeah. No, because they can ride on CMC all day long, right? Second half they can rely on him heavily. The only thing that I will say that's a plus for the Eagles is the whole situation, what happened with Brock Purdy last year. Is that in the back of his mind? I think Hassan Reddick needs to go and see what he did last year to absolutely dominate that right side, right tackle. He needs to look at that and just, if he comes off that edge, I don't know if Brock Purdy's going to be able to have time. Now, the issue is he can just dump it off to McCaffrey, which we don't really have a linebacker right now that's going to be able to stay in coverage. I don't have faith in our linebacking core right now, which is why we have to get to the quarterback as fast as possible. Fletcher Cox might not be playing. He pulled his groin last week. So Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, they have to step up big. They weren't here last year. So this is kind of their chance to prove themselves against the team like the Niners. I don't know what it's going to look like. Are you going to get a game like last year? Absolutely not.
No.
Now, if there's a game I'd want to lose to the Niners, it would be this game, because come playoff time, we're talking about different. And I don't think Jalen Hurts loses to a team like that twice in a year. I don't think he does. He's too much of a competitor. He's always got that fire and passion. And I think he would rather lose this game than obviously the playoffs. And so, yes, it matters because you're going to get home field advantage. And that is huge, especially playing in the link. I will say what gives Philly a little bit of an edge is because people are stupid and fans are dumb and go and deface Rocky. They already did it. They went after it. They ran up there, tried to say this is our town. I mean, when do people learn their lesson not to mess with Rocky? I mean, Philly always plays well when you mess with Rocky. At some point, you got to leave it alone.
Yeah. I think the biggest matchup to look at here is going to be Kittle versus our safeties or Kittle versus our linebacker core. This entire season, I feel like the Eagles' middle of the field area with the linebackers and the safeties have been giving up a lot of big plays. You saw Logan Thomas have probably the two best games of his season against the Eagles and for Washington. And I think if you can't contain that, obviously Kelsey didn't do that great against it, but I think you have to be able to contain that. Bayard's going to have a big game. We're going to have to get somebody that can play a better nickel corner against him, or else he's going to wreak havoc the entire night, because you can guard Debo. You can guard CMC. I mean, Eagles are one of the best run defenses, if not the best run defense in the league. You can guard that, but if you can't guard those passes, it's going to be hard to guard it all night.
Yeah, I think if Blankenship's able to read the defense like he has in a couple other games this year, be able to jump those routes, I think Blankenship can be a huge help. I think he could be the reason why the Eagles can win. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes away with an interception this week. Bayard had one. I think Blankenship, he looked great last year. I think this is the game to give him that confidence going in for the rest of the year, where he can go and jump those routes and have a great success, So either way, I think it's going to be a good game. I don't necessarily think the Eagles are going to win. I always root for my team. I always think that they have a shot at any game. But with this one, I think the Niners are just a little bit more complete. We're hurt. We have injuries. And I think that's going to be an issue this week. And I think they're going to take one in the link. I mean, unless I see something different, we don't have a tight end that's going to help. I heard Zach Ertz might be coming back to Philly. That would be huge. You run a two tight end set. There. Yeah. That would be fantastic when Goddard gets back and you have Ertz and Goddard. That would be huge. Ertz really isn't a blocking tight end. He's your route running tight end, and he always has been. He's great at it. So I mean, it'll be interesting. They need to do something. Howie needs to do something, because right now this team is not complete, and I don't think they can make a playoff push because of that.
Yeah, luckily they'll get him back in the next week or two, so that'll be good for them.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be nice. But I mean, that's pretty much it, man. I just touching base on that without Christian. Christian's out there enjoying his time. Probably gonna have a little too much. I wouldn't be surprised if he throws up at least twice tonight. I would probably put a over under.
Yeah, over under. Is that 2.5 over under or what?
You know what? Maybe 2, because there could be a one time where he throws up half. He's about to throw up and stop, so he could have 2.5. But as always, it's championship week in the NCAA. Enjoy that, guys. And then we got a lot of good football coming up this weekend, so enjoy it.
And I'm thinking maybe if any of us have time once those rankings come out to do like some sort of small impromptu talk about it. So if we have time, I know that's church day, so it may not be able to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I went to church on Thursday last night, so that's not an issue. It's just a matter if I'm busy or not. I'm totally. I mean, it sounds fun. It'll take like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So, short video.
Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy some football while games are played. Brooklyn's gone for the weekend. I'm going to be playing some video games. So.
There you go. All right.
Introduced to you the Highlight Taken podcast. We bring the heat is true. Hosted by David, Nick, and Christian. That's a crew. They drop knowledge and hot takes at the sports IQ. We dive into the game from hoops to gridiron, analyzing every play like we were the champion. With witty banter and humor, we keep it fun. HTP fam, we always bring the number one. Highlight Taken podcast, we taking over the scene. We drop dubs and chugs, living the sports dream. From hot takes to deep dive, it's a winning regime. Come join the hype, we not just blowing steam.